You don't have to wait for an FTA to initiate regulatory reform. I think Thailand's regulatory environment is at times a bit, maybe not as investor-friendly as some of your competitors and neighbours in the region. So we want a substantive, high-quality trade agreement with issues resolved and predictability around standards, adoption of international standards by Thailand.
And with the progress of the EU FTA at the moment, how optimistic does it look for European businesses who are interested in investing in Thailand? Tell us about your mission this time.
I'm the Vice Chairman of the EU-ASEAN Business Council, and I'm leading a delegation of 80 representatives from 33 European companies to meet the Thai government with His Excellency the Prime Minister and multiple ministers, permanent secretaries, primarily to promote the views of the European business community in terms of specifically the EU-Thailand FTA negotiations, but also generally our views about making Thailand more attractive for further investment by our members as an investment destination, and to promote ASEAN regional economic integration as well.
That sounds like a very jam-packed schedule you have here. So what kind of expectations do you have for these talks?
This is our 8th mission to Thailand in 10 years. And indeed, we had virtual missions during the COVID era. We always get an exchange of ideas and dialogue with the Thai policymakers. Some of it, of course, is high level, but a lot of the meetings, including one of the meetings we had this morning with the Ministry of Industry, are quite specific, quite technical, almost sectoral in terms of the issues we raise. We highlight issues that impede or maybe retard further investment and growth, bilateral trade growth between Thailand and Europe, as evidenced by our members. And we're hoping that the policymakers take on board our views in revising and refining the regulatory environment in Thailand to, I suppose, to drive further investment and further trade.
Right, and right now Thailand is trying to push for the EU FTA to be finalized by the end of this year. So as the representative of the EU ASEAN Business Council, how much hope do you have for this FTA to be finalized?
Well, I think my personal view, and I'm based in Brussels, so I have the view of the Brussels policymakers, the European Commission also, is that, and indeed the view of the Council, is that this FTA will be finalised at some point. Most likely early in the new year, 2027. I know Thai policymakers are hoping that 2026. That's probably a little bit ambitious in terms of some of the issues that remain to be resolved. But we're quite confident, in fact bordering on very optimistic, that the FTA will be concluded, the text will be concluded, if not this year, early in the 2027 year.
Even though the time frame is kind of set already, but from your perspective, how close do you think we are in terms of trying to finalize that deal?
Yeah. Well, 15 of the 24 chapters have been closed. The text has been agreed between the respective negotiators from the Department of Trade Negotiation here in Thailand and DG Trade and the Commission. So that's 15 of the 24. As always, the easier issues are resolved first. So what remains are, probably a little bit more difficult technically to resolve. Areas around government procurement, intellectual property, energy and agricultural access for Thai exports to Europe, particularly given the high health and safety standards that Europe applies. But we're confident from talking to the European policymakers and indeed the Thai ones that progress is being made on all of those. The main thing that we at the Council would like is not so much speed but substance. We want a substantive, high quality trade agreement with issues resolved and predictability around standards, adoption of international standards by Thailand. And similarly, we would hope that the Thai demands would be resolved as well on the European side. So we don't want speed, we would prefer it to be a substantive agreement. But to reiterate, we do believe a deal will be done, the text will be concluded, and then it enters into 2 different ratification processes. A rather complex one in Europe that can take some time, and the Thai parliamentary process is a bit more simple relative to the European one. But we're confident that the text will be agreed next year. As to when it's implemented, that will depend on the 2 ratification processes.
How important is this FTA in shaping Thailand's competitiveness and attractiveness among European companies?
It's very important. I think Thailand's regulatory environment is at times a bit maybe not as investor friendly as some of your competitors and neighbours in the region. Some of that is for good reason historically. Some of the regulatory practices and regulations and laws probably need to be reformed. You know, the Foreign Business Act is often mentioned by European services industries in particular as not conducive to further investment in Thailand. So we do believe in the area of competitiveness. An FTA will be part of policy initiatives by the Thai government to enhance Thai competitiveness. Anything that streamlines trade and business is in the end, supporting competitiveness in Thailand.
It's interesting that you mentioned that Thailand is not really a conducive environment for investment. Can you help us elaborate on this aspect for us?
Yeah, there are a number of aspects to that. I suppose if we start with the positive, the IMD University in Lausanne in Switzerland recently produced its latest competitiveness index, and Thailand went from number 30 to number 26 in the countries covered by that index. Only two other ASEAN countries, Singapore and Malaysia, are ahead of Thailand in that index. Singapore is the world's most competitive country, according to this index, and Malaysia is number 15. Interestingly, Vietnam, your near neighbour, is behind you in the index. Whether that remains the case or not, of course, we shall see. Your Minister of Finance, Minister Ekniti, has indicated a desire for Thailand to rise into the top 20 in the foreseeable future, probably by 2030, and we see that as very possible. In terms of the challenges, as I mentioned, specific legislation, the Foreign Business Act, but there are apparently 7,600 ministerial regulations in place in Thailand. Many of them are redundant, are out of date, are inconsistent with each other, and need to be rescinded or modernized. So in terms of competitiveness, trade facilitation practices, customs practices, digitization of import, export, all of those kind of things cumulatively. And we sometimes call them non-tariff measures, non-tariff barriers. They're not tariffs obstructing market access as such, but they are in totality, not conducive to driving trade in both directions, but particularly imports and further investment by European companies.
Right, and what do you think European companies are looking for or hoping to see from Thailand before the FTA is actually finalized?
I would say regulatory reform across the board. You don't have to wait for an FTA to initiate regulatory reform, and the ease of doing business, which the World Bank used to comment on in the past. Thailand is not always seen as the easiest ASEAN country to do business in, but there's no one piece of legislation that is the problem, as it were. It's the totality of legislation and practices. The fundamentals of the Thai economy are strong. We, as a European business community, believe in the long-term future of Thailand as a destination for investment, as a base for regional supply chains, and as a significant market in its own right. With 71 million people, it's not a small country. But the FTA is not going to, it's going to unlock some of the competitiveness issues. I think coupled with the OECD accession, which is also in the pipeline, but possibly a few years further ahead, each of these is a step on a journey. Personally, I believe the OECD accession will be transformative for Thailand. It's not a negotiation, unlike an FTA, where the two parties, negotiate and trade off. OECD accession, you take the OECD conventions and treaties and so forth, and you apply them in areas like bribery, corruption, corporate governance, taxation. There's a whole suite of codes and conventions that you sign up to when you become an OECD member. And it's essential to becoming a higher income country. No country has ever become high income that has not become a member of the OECD or voluntarily adopted its codes. So my sense is the FTA is a step in the journey. The OECD accession will be a further step in that journey towards making Thailand more competitive vis-a-vis its competitors, and fit for enhanced investment from foreign companies, including European companies.
Actually, there are two ambitious goals here, whether it's the EU FTA and becoming a member of the OECD. And Thailand has been trying to aim for this goal where they become a member of the OECD countries. So from your perspective, how challenging is it for Thailand right now to be one of the member states?
It's a significant exercise, for sure. Thailand is one of 8 countries in the accession process. Indonesia is the only other country from Southeast Asia in that list of 8. You have a roadmap, and it's a very demanding and tortuous process in a sense to accede to the OECD. I believe from memory, Korea was the last Asian country to accede over 20 years ago. So it is a very demanding process. Something like 35 OECD committees across different areas examine Thailand's regulatory environment and practices and policy environment and identify where changes need to be made in order for Thailand to be fit for OECD accession. They're not all business, they're not all trade related, but in aggregate, they involve a significant reform of the policy environment in Thailand. I know the Prime Minister has given the accession his full backing. There is a national committee which he chairs that is coordinating across ministries, and it is a whole of government exercise. But indeed, it is a whole of government process also. So as I say, the FTA will break down some of the barriers, at least in relation to trade, but the OECD accession also brings a lot of pro-business, international best practice standards that Thailand, when it applies them, will be more, it'll be a more enabling environment for investment and trade.
And is there a specific policy area that Thailand needs to focus on to increase the benefits of this EU FTA?
Yeah, I think services industries. Europe is a superpower in terms of services industries, and the world is not made up of just companies who make goods and companies who sell services. They are inextricably linked, and Europe is a services superpower. So I think the European services industries tell us in the Council that they find the ownership restrictions, for example, and the licensing rules contained in the Foreign Business Act for specific sectors quite onerous, quite demanding. The ability to set up and own your intellectual property is not always apparent. If you have to give away 51%, for example, of the ownership to a Thai partner, services industries don't like giving away any of their intellectual property. They're happy to trade in the country, but they don't want to give away a percentage of the knowledge, because you can't give away 51% of knowledge. You either give it or you don't. So I would say, to answer your question, it's not an industry sector as such, but the services umbrella term. They do find it rather challenging. But there are challenges for the goods importers, exporters as well.
And with the progress of the EU FTA at the moment, how optimistic does it look for European businesses who are interested in investing in Thailand?
Very optimistic. I think, subject to what the comments I made earlier about maybe refining and streamlining trade facilitation practices and licensing and permitting, the Foreign Business Act, those kind of issues. European businesses have long been invested in Thailand. Some of our members have been here 150 years, and it is the second largest economy. It has an industrial ecosystem that not many ASEAN countries can match. So in that sense, it's easier for European businesses to build on what they already have here than to start up in a greenfield in another member state that may not have the same sophisticated ecosystem. So I would say there's a lot of optimism in European businesses. The number of companies we have here this week is testament to the interest in Thailand as a trade and investment destination. And I wouldn't pick out any one sector, but I've named a few that are certainly enthusiastic about when the FTA is concluded.
And looking forward, how much hope do you have for the trade and investment climate between EU and the ASEAN region?
Oh, I think ASEAN is essential to Europe, and dare I say, Europe is essential to ASEAN. I think in the fractured geopolitical world that we live in now, a multipolar world, shall we call it, Europe needs new trading partners. ASEAN needs new trading partners to diversify away from the US and China, let's just call it like that directly. Corporates need diversification of their supply chains. That's not to say that they're leaving China or they're leaving the US, but they're duplicating their facilities and they're duplicating their markets. So ASEAN is the 5th largest economy as a bloc in the world. Certainly by 2030 it will be confirmed in that position. Europe is the world's leading single market, and the two combined, Europe and ASEAN, are the two leading trading blocs in the world. So we're natural partners in many respects, certainly economically. We share a commitment to rules-based international order, particularly in the trading space. So I think European companies and Europe politically sees ASEAN as an essential partner. You've seen with the Partnership and Cooperation Agreement that Europe signed with Thailand in 2022, but went into force in 2024, a broad-based cooperation relationship, not just trade, but across crime and human rights and environment. The same is happening with Europe-ASEAN, Europe-ASEAN the bloc. We believe that the strategic partnership that currently exists between Europe and ASEAN will be upgraded next year to a comprehensive strategic partnership. It's not just an adjective, an extra adjective in front of the word partnership. It actually will come with some substance. The European Union has made significant funds available for infrastructural development across the region. And the 4 live trade agreements added to the 2 existing, Singapore and Vietnam, that will mean 6 of the 11 member states will have a free trade agreement. Our Council's ambition has long been to have a bloc-to-bloc free trade agreement, so EU-ASEAN agreement. For political reasons, that hasn't been achievable before now, but Commissioner Šefčovič in Brussels has publicly said in recent times, once the 6 agreements are in place, including Thailand, it is realistic to at least start talking about a bloc-to-bloc digital agreement, followed by a more ambitious full-spectrum trade agreement between the EU and ASEAN. Europe is ASEAN's 3rd largest investor and trading partner, and we believe that has scope to grow more. But it also helps both ASEAN countries and corporates and European equivalent to diversify their risk. So we are essential to each other in a multipolar world.
Right, and one last question, how does it feel to know that the Thai government and Thai businesses have been really active in trying to push for this FTA to be finalized by the end of this year or at least early next year?
It's very encouraging. I think this new government, the Prime Minister Anutin's second government, shall we say, is very pro-business, as was his first government. The previous government under Prime Minister Paetongtarn was also business-friendly in a complete sense, international and Thai business. The big change, I think, that I notice is the Thai business community has got on board, is supportive of an FTA. Not everybody, because there are always winners and losers, at least in the short term, in any free trade agreement. Vested interests will always look to delay or impede liberalisation. But in general, I think the Thai business community is more supportive now than I would have perceived it to be in the past. That's helpful because it gives the Thai policymakers a supportive constituency here, and of course at the end of the day their job is to represent Thailand's interests. So we do believe that the Thai political class and the Thai business community are fully supportive, which is very encouraging. And I can certainly testify that the European business community and the European Union policymakers are absolutely committed to doing this deal as soon as the technical issues can be resolved. But I think the political will to overcome them absolutely exists.
All right, thank you so much for today.
Thank you very much.
ขอบคุณค่ะ
ขอบคุณครับ